With investment reported and Derby County chasing after a range of different players, we're going to talk about what Paul Warne spoke about in the press conference. Obviously, with the discussions around Curtis Nelson's injury, the injuries to Kane Wilson and so on, Derby County are looking at a range of different targets. Paul Warne was very adamant in the fact that he doesn't really want unexpected players. He wants players with championship experience. And this is something which I believe is absolutely massive for Derby County in order to stay in this level. Now, talking to Dom Dietrich of BBC Radio Derby, he made a whole host of different comments and some which I'm going to use in this video. We're going to talk about the tweets which Dom put out post the press conference to see where Derby County could find themselves come the end of the transfer window. We're not that far away from the end of it now, and we're still lacking a range of numbers in the squad with just one player signing over the course of the last 24 days. Who is going to come in and be that replacement for Curtis Nelson? What other positions are we looking at? Now, to start off with in this video, Paul Warne spoke in the press conference about some targets that he has abroad, mainly in midfield, but he's unsure if they'll press on with any of those. There's another option that played at the level and in the Championship that he believes is a better fit, but there's a lot of moving parts. He'd prefer a Championship ready player. Now, in my opinion, I believe that abroad midfield is Oscar Frullo, and there's reports coming out after this tweet was posted yesterday that the Oscar Frullo deal is done. Now, ultimately, I'm not entirely sure. Don't have any guarantees from me on that one. It's purely just people putting tweets out saying that they've seen people saying it's done. So I can't give a guarantee on that one, although I really think Oscar Frullo would be a really good player for Derby County. Obviously made a video talking about that a few days ago. He's really good on the ball. He looks good in a tackle as well, which is obviously what Derby County need, and something which I think we've been missing without David Ozo across the course of the last few months, and a position which I think absolutely needed doing. Now, onto the centre-half situation, because obviously with Cashin obviously just returning to fitness, Rooney not quite ready, Phillips is about 2 weeks away according to Dom Dietrich, and Curtis Nelson obviously out for the foreseeable future. There have been targets who have been noted by Paul Warne and the transfer team, mainly ones who have played at the level, and there's a potential purchase from abroad, but there is also loan targets. Now, Warne did mention in the press conference to Dom Dietrich that they're having a late one at Moor Farm last night, but doubts that they'll get anything done yesterday, which means we could see something today. Ultimately, when you see this video, I'm not entirely sure if it's done. I'm recording this at 10:22 in the morning. I've got things to do today, so it's one of those things. Now, there's a lot of speculation going around the fan base at the moment with a group of different players who people believe could be those players with championship experience, and the names that have been noted is Josh Knight, Connor Goldson, Liam Cooper and Azay Hugertide. Can't say his name, definitely butchered it, but for me, I'm not entirely sure if any of those are possibilities. Josh Knight is one maybe I could get behind because I'm not entirely sure how old he is. How old is Josh Knight? Let's go and take a look at how old Josh Knight is, because that could be a potential decent deal. How old is he? He's 27 according to Transfer Market, currently playing for Hanover, where he joined in the summer. Now, the reason for me why I don't think this is necessarily going to happen, it might, he's played 13 games in Bundesliga 2 and the DFB Pokal, 797 minutes. He played 90 minutes just a few days ago, I believe. No, hang on, that's wrong. He wasn't in the squad for their game a few days ago, but he played 90 minutes in their final game of December. So it's one of those for me where I can't personally see Josh Knight. Connor Goldson is in Cyprus, not entirely sure about that one. Liam Cooper, if we wanted him, could have got him in the summer. And I'm not entirely sure about Azai either. I believe he was at Sheffield Wednesday a few years ago, but obviously not there anymore. And it's one of those for me where I'm really intrigued to see what defender we do bring in. It's one of those for me where there's lots of moving parts for Derby County, especially when it comes to bringing in these sorts of players. And we've obviously got to make sure we bring in the right one, because Curtis Nelson has been a player with a wealth of experience for Derby County, and a player who has ultimately been one of the better performers we've had across the course of the season. So it's one of those for me where if we're going to bring in players, they have to be really important. Now, I've received a few messages from a range of different people. I'm assuming they're people that watch the videos who have said that we're looking after a defender, a midfielder, a winger, and potentially a striker. Now, for me, I'm not opposed to any 4 of those players. I do personally believe we need 3 or 4 in by the end of the window, and Dom Dietrich expects that as well. But it's one of those for me. It's really interesting to see what Paul Warne and Derby County will do. Because we need bodies in the squad and we need them quick, but ultimately we can't pick up the wrong players just for the sake of because we've got injuries. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather play a Jake Rooney for the next 20 games than bring in someone who's 21, 22 that we don't know, who could come in and not perform to the level, if that makes sense. So it will be interesting to see what Derby County do end up doing. It's one of those discussions that's going to happen across the course of the next few days. I'm not entirely sure when the transfer window closes, so let me just have a look for you, because that is obviously a massive deal for Derby County, because with the January transfer window, it's a difficult window. We always hear this, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted closing date. Where is the closing date? Transfer window close. 2025 closing date. So it closes on February the 3rd. So we've got probably another 2 weeks-ish. So it's going to be interesting to see what actually does happen across the course of the next few days, because we're really in a situation now where Derby County need players and they need extra depth. And for me, I don't necessarily think... Obviously, we need quality. We can't go and just pick up willy-nilly anybody, but we have to be careful in what we're bringing in, because what, in my opinion, we should be doing is bringing in players that, if it's not a loan, if it's a permanent, we've got to bring in players that in 12 months' time are going to be able to compete with Curtis Nelson and Erin Cashin. I personally believe we'll probably try and sign Nat Phillips in the summer permanently, although I'm not entirely sure how that deal will work, given obviously his wages at Liverpool. I don't believe he'll get another contract, given his age and things like that. But obviously, we've got to try and make sure that the players we bring in are going to level us up. In my opinion, when Curtis Nelson comes back, we should have 2 more defenders that are on a level or better than Curtis Nelson was a few days ago, realistically, before his injury. That's my personal opinion. Now, everyone can all have their say, and that's valid and true. I'm welcome to hear people's opinions down in the comments. Obviously, I spoke earlier today about the considerable investment that's been mentioned by BBC Radio Derby, and that coming from David Clowes to give Paul Warne a bit of help. Now, it is going to be interesting to see what actually happens with that, because realistically, we've heard these talks about budgets and investments and things like that before, and nothing has happened. So let's just see what does happen over the course of the next few days. Obviously, a couple of weeks until the transfer window closes. Who is going to come through the door, I'm not entirely sure, but it could be a really interesting one. If we can pick up Oscar Frullo, a championship experienced defender and midfielder, maybe a winger and a striker, would be looking really good. Personally, I think we'll probably end up bringing in 3 players by the end of the transfer window. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, go and follow me over on Twitter and TikTok. I like to keep people updated over there as well. So let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.